Have you ever known you deserved more but still found yourself second guessing the ask?
Today, we are talking about why asking for what you're worth is not just about confidence. Sometimes it's about burnout, boundaries, and whether you're leading from clarity or survival.
Dr. Cynthia Coy is here to help us unpack how high achieving women move from overwhelmed to overflow, and why knowing your worth has to show up in your money decisions, your leadership, and your voice.
Stay with us because by the end, we are giving you a simple way to check whether you are negotiating from alignment or from exhaustion. Hi, I'm Claude.
And I'm Jess.
We are corporate employees by day, entrepreneurs by night, and work besties for life.
Join us as we explore how work besties lift each other up, laugh through the chaos, and thrive together in every industry.
Work besties!
Work besties, welcome back. This month is all about money, power, and negotiation, really asking for what you're worth.
And today, we are looking at a part of that conversation that matters more than people realize: the connection between self worth, boundaries, and how women show up in high pressure leadership spaces.
Because a lot of women are not under asking because they're unqualified. They're under asking because they're exhausted, overfunctioning, and caring too much. Dr. Coy, welcome to Work Besties Who podcast. You help women move from overwhelm to overflow, and that feels so connected to the way women think about money, negotiation, and leadership. When did you first realize that success on paper and actual alignment in life are not the same thing?
That's a good opening question. For me, it might be a little different, but the success on paper, when you look at my resume in my corporate and military careers that I had, you looked at the salary, it sounded like, "Oh, she's all great." But it was not in alignment with who I was and who I wanted to be. And for me, it was like I was doing something that while I had the technical expertise to do, I mean, I went to school, I had an experience in it. However, my personal growth journey has been going on for a while now, and I've changed, right? Like I want it to show up and who it is who I want it to be. And it started my entrepreneur journey because I was not in alignment with what I was doing. Basically, about 13 years ago, I thought, well, okay, where do I really want to be? And that's how I started on Cage Solutions, my business. And while I worked it alongside my corporate, I eventually transitioned out to do executive coaching and leadership development for organizations because that's more.
So Cynthia, you hit on your background, right? You were in the
Yeah.
Air Force, your corporate leadership, and it sounds like you had other kind of behavioral science elements in there too. How
Yes.
did those experiences shape the way you think about power, performance, and pressure?
Wow. Well, so in an organization, when you are high level, there's power that comes by position, right? That type of authority, I always say you have to be careful about because, you never want people to feel like they're coerced to do something just because you're in charge.
Mm.
From a personal perspective, though, there is a pressure because you are at that level. It's like, okay, well, you have to do it really well because all eyes are on you. And especially for me, in my experience, I'm a minority by being a woman, by ethnicity wise. So there were lots of times I was the only one, either only woman in the room or only person of color in the room. So everything that I said, the way I thought, was going to be scrutinized. So there's that pressure from there too. And so the pressure to perform in a power role is pretty high. And it can become very stressful because you don't want to make a mistake,
Mhm.
right? Because if you do, then whatever preconceived notions people had about how you were going to perform in the first place all of a sudden start to um, I'm not going to say be spoken out loud, but you start to see it in people's nonverbals and their behavior sometime. And so there's a lot of pressure, regardless of how much you know, how confident you are in your job. It feels like you're always under a microscope being evaluated.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's an element where people already have preconceived notions of you because of who you are and what you represent. So, from the leadership perspective, the person who's in that role, how do you help them balance being okay with you still going to make mistakes? So, what's that balance or that idea that you have to help them through that?
Well, first, I took the word balance out the vocabulary for me.
Okay.
I know it works for some people, but not for me, right? So, and just because when I think of balance, I think of a seesaw. So that means
Hmm.
somebody has to be on the other end in order for it to stay balanced, right? So I use the word harmony in it instead. And harmony for me is more about that alignment. The example often about one of the things I love to do is go hear a symphony orchestra, right? So the music, violin, one of my favorite instruments, is beautiful by itself. Flutes are beautiful. You have your percussion, your woodwinds, and parts of the orchestra. And while alone they sound okay and even nice, when you put them together, it makes this right beautiful, breathtaking sound. And that's that harmony. That's the alignment that you're looking for in your leadership. You can be confident in what you do and competent in what you do, right?
Hmm.
But it's like how do you block out the noise, right? Because here's the thing, our thoughts are always telling us stories sometimes. That may not be actually true, right? They're telling us stories, and regardless of how good you are at your job and your position, people might even give you accolades for it. There is always something that you're striving for, um, to make sure that, we're gonna make mistakes, yes. You're trying to make sure there's no room or little room for, um, any negative feedback or criticism that you're going to get in that leadership role. And so it goes to a lot of things. That's why the overwhelm happens, because not only are you in this leadership role at work, you have this leadership role at home. And we look at the different roles that women play. you know I love that we can seem like Wonder Women. At what cost are we that? So it's like
Right.
you're so fragmented, because it's like in leadership at work, I'm in leadership at home, especially I think about whether you are a full-time stay-at-home mom or you're a working mom, but or even a working single person, like I'll say single person. Even if you're like
Yeah.
even if you are married but you don't have children at home, there's still this leadership that you're having, right? So it's
Right.
like you're trying to be the best wife, or you're trying to be the best mom, or you're trying to be the best caregiver to your parents, or
Or
whatever
your
that it is.
friends or your network of people.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
there's
your community.
yeah, and there's just all of these pulls that are happening. And so it's like, how do I make sure I'm in alignment? So that's kind of like how I had developed that fresh framework. It's like the different aspects of your life, because it's so multi-layered, right? Like, how do you make
Right.
sure that you are able to manage your time and your energy, right? To make sure you are in alignment to be the best version of yourself, or for you first, before
Mhm.
you are trying to be everybody's everything.
So you brought up something that, our viewers might not know about the fresh framework. Would you mind explaining what that is and providing some ideas for our work bestie community?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So what I've seen over and over again is that you have a lot of high achieving women who are losing themselves. They might be paid well, or at least maybe paid well, maybe not. Who knows?
Hopefully.
It just depends.
But we'll
Hopefully
get
they
into
are,
that.
but they are losing themselves because, again, they're trying to be all things to all people. They are depleting themselves dry and not showing up for themselves. They are literally drowning in overwhelm. And so this fresh framework that I came up with stands for financial, relational, emotional, spiritual, holistic. Holistic is more of the integrator, right? It's being able to check out how you are showing up financially. You have people who are making six figures who can't afford to do something that might seem so basic because they don't know how to manage money well, right? You have people who are not successful in relationships because they don't know how to set boundaries, right? You have people who don't know how to manage their emotional responses. They're not even emotionally aware. So that part is not where it should be. And it's starting to impact your relationships and your finances, right? And then you have
Right.
the aspect of spiritual awareness and your journey spiritually, regardless of what you believe in or maybe what you don't believe in. I hope that most people understand that there is something bigger than you, right? And even when you look at your purpose that is bigger than you, um, there's something that should be anchoring you and guiding you in how you make decisions every day. Um, and then when you look at your age, which is the holistic integration of it, it's looking at how do I make sure that I'm not giving too much energy or too much time in one area and neglecting another area. So that alignment, that harmony, the fresh framework, number one, takes a lot of intention and a lot of reflection and a lot of time for you to just say, okay, pause, pause, especially from the emotional side. I think our emotions really are the tell of how well we're doing, right? They're like, you can feel when you have a tightness in your chest or tightness in your gut. But if you're not listening to it, you start ignoring it. And then that's how you suppress it. And eventually it's that one little thing that has nothing to do with really anything, right? It like explodes. So that fresh framework is a call for you to really pause, think about where am I in these different areas of my life? Is that where I want to be? And how do I get to where I want to be?
I would love for you to talk about the financial portion of Fresh in a deeper way. What does financial alignment look like for a woman who wants more, but also wants peace, sustainability, and room to breathe?
The first area you need to really reflect on is your worthiness. We, as women, I just want something that's fair. I'm afraid to ask for too much. I don't want to ask too much, because you're afraid of this rejection, right? But if you don't understand your worthiness, if you don't know the value that you're bringing to the organization, then you are going to let the organization define your worth instead of you defining your worth, right? You should be walking into that conversation knowing a few things. One, research, know what the market range is, right? You also need to know where you fall into that range, right? And then you got to be able to articulate, why do I belong at the top? A lot of times we think in terms of what's the amount of money I need to ask for in order for us to maintain the lifestyle that we currently have versus dreaming bigger and thinking bigger. And so you're looking at that from a scarcity mindset versus an abundance mindset. The value that you bring, what is that worth? Society, has taught us this. Be quiet, shrink. But why? Because when you put a value on your time, that should change the game, right? For you. Another mistake that we make when we go into interviews or negotiations for salary is you're as much interviewing this organization as they are interviewing you. You're wanting to make sure that this is a good fit, that this is in alignment with not just what your worth is, but also who you are in the role that
Oh,
you're going to.
a couple of things that I would love to double click into. Your comments coming with a mindset of scarcity versus abundance. That's game changer. And it's such a unique perspective to think about, especially when you're coming to your research side of where you think you land as far as knowing your worth. Talk to me a little bit more about that. What do you mean?
Who we are at this moment, right, obviously has been shaped by experiences that we have had in our past. And so, regardless of where you are on the financial spectrum, is obviously informed by our past experiences. It's also
Mhm.
informed by our thoughts for the future.
Right.
And I think we just have grown up in a lot of scarcity mindsets. I think the difference between a scarcity and an abundance mindset comes down to the language that you speak. I'm not talking about foreign languages. I'm talking about saying the words that we say
Oh,
to
this is great.
ourselves.
Yeah.
I know, like for myself, I have taken certain words out of my vocabulary. Like, I don't say try. No, I don't say, I think I'm going to do this. No, you're doing it. Intention is so important. And when you're looking at abundance, you always have to be future forward looking, right? And so when you go into a meeting to negotiate your salary, you should not just be looking at, so this is based on what I've done. You think about it based on what I know I will do in this role. When I was in the Air Force, when we get promoted as officers or enlisted into the next rank, they always say our rank promotion is based on our potential, not, oh, you did a great job as a second lieutenant. So we think you should be a first lieutenant. No, it's you are performing at that next level. We see that you can perform well at that next level. And so that is what we're going to promote you to. That's what we're going to give you opportunity for. When you are going into looking for another position, professionally speaking, that's what you should be looking for is thinking about what am I going to do in this position? Now, granted, you don't know until you get there and you see what challenges might be there, but
Right.
you know what you bring and you can dream. Do your research, not just on what the market has for this salary range, but if you had that title and you thought about what could I really do with that? Dream, start thinking future focused.
It sounds like boundaries are not separate from negotiation, right? They teach people how to value your time, your leadership, and your labor before the money conversation even starts.
This is where a lot of high achieving women we get tripped up. We try to make it very personal, and you have to stop doing that. I get it. You don't want to come off as aggressive. You don't want to come off trying to mess up a relationship with your boss who might be the hiring manager. Negotiation is not about having a conflict with the person that you're engaging with. It's totally about collaboration. So you're not going to the table asking for permission. You're not saying, can I do this? No, this is what I need. This is what I want. And knowing that you can deliver what that number is asking for. So on the relationship side, and even like when you look at communication, right? For the relationships that you're having in that space is we do make it so personal. So you might feel like people are attacking you, but it's really not. It could be jealousy, it could be intimidation. Um, People are not secure in themselves when they are around secure people. That's just fact.
Oh,
When you think about energy, right? The energy you bring when you walk in that room can command a room, right? When you're around certain people, they can become intimidated or jealous about you. Not that you're given an air of arrogance or anything like that, but it's just because you're very confident in who you are. Your posture, it all adds to it, right? Your posture, keeping your head down, your shoulders are back, your head is up. When you speak, you're not a mouse. You're not also being super loud and very confident in what I have to bring to the table. I'll say this really quick because one of the things on the relational side is the people pleasing. We have to stop. We are so taught to be people pleasing from the time we're a kid, right? I get it. As a time that we're a kid, you want to please your parents because you don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to have those kind of consequences. But as we get older, we still are acting like, the 10-year-old that is like so obsessed with not disappointing our parents or not disappointing our friends that we start to sacrifice and not draw those boundaries because boundaries are about you protecting your peace and protecting your joy by not letting people overstep and basically get you into a position where you're stressed out and overwhelmed, where you're not able to be in your flow and be in the space where you are in full alignment with who you're called to be.
I agree wholeheartedly. People pleasing, setting the boundaries is really more about us because others will listen. You're the ones that have to set those boundaries and explain it and state it. And if you don't, they're going to keep pushing.
It's a good point. Like just like the boundaries, you can try to communicate. Oh, don't yell at me.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you going to do if I do? What is your enforcement? What is the consequence of somebody yelling at you?
I'm
The
not going to
consequence.
support whatever you're asking me to do. It's just
Yeah.
not gonna get done.
Or I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna sit in silence or walk
Right.
away, remove myself from that situation and leave you there by yourself. Your enforcement of your boundaries is critical to you maintaining your alignment, and people will figure it out really quick. She doesn't play that. Let me not do that
Yeah,
again. Let me
that's
not do that
true.
again.
That's really great advice for people. Do you think there's a connection between the overachiever who's over-functioning and not quite finding that alignment yet, and under-earning, meaning they are not getting paid what they really should be?
I would say, yeah, I think there can be a correlation.
Okay.
There also cannot, right? One of the things that comes to mind is if I'm overworking and not being paid enough, then I'm striving to prove something like I should be worth more, but they're not going to pay you more if you're doing what they're paying you for doing less. Because here goes the thing, it's like human nature. If you go above and beyond what you're worth, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't ever do it, but I'm just saying
Right.
you're consistently overworking, you're consistently staying late, coming in early, working on weekends when you should be at home, um, focused on yourself or your family or whoever, then people are like, oh, let her do
She'll do
that.
it.
Let her do it. She'll do it.
Yeah, she'll do it.
She'll
Yeah.
be the one that if we said, hey, Jess, I need you to work this weekend, regardless of if you have that gut feeling like, okay, what I'm gonna have to cancel you taking my kid to their soccer game or whatever. You're gonna do it, but for what? Instead of us being confident in knowing our worth and say, oh, okay, you need me to work the weekend. Okay, let's negotiate what that's gonna look like. Okay, I'm gonna need this, that, and the other. Negotiate your worth at that point.
Yeah.
Then they can
I
rethink that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, wait,
Right. So they can know that it is leaning in and asking for more. I love that. That's like, how do you establish being more collaborative versus just being chronically available for people?
exactly.
What is a good question a work bestie can ask when she can tell someone is shrinking herself in a money or leadership conversation?
A really good question. Ah, first of all, when you have a work bestie, I hope they are the type of people that you're surrounding yourself with who are not afraid to be honest with you, right? Who can tell you what you may not want to hear, but you need to hear. And I think one of the most powerful coaching questions I have used is when people are shrinking or maybe not feeling like they're having their best day, feeling worthy, is um, what is the story you're telling yourself right now? What is the story you're telling yourself? Now, there's a difference between stories we tell ourselves and the facts as they are. And that has a lot to do with your beliefs that you have are influencing your mindset. But the question is like, where do those beliefs come from? If somebody tells you you're never going to get that job, or you're never going to get that position, or you're never going to do this, you're never going to do that. The thing is, our brain is so wonderful and powerful. What it hears, what it starts to process becomes the story that it's going to be on repeat in your mind. So when you feel like, hey, yeah, maybe I should try this, that, and the other, these neural pathways that you have in your brain are telling you, no, 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 because this, because we have been taught this is not what we do. And that's basically a pattern, right? But when you have those work besties that are encouraging you and challenging you to figure out, is that the story that you've been telling yourself, where does that come from versus what is the fact, right? A lot of times we have fears based on things we've never even tried. We have fears just based off of what people have said, and we aren't willing to change that into a different story, right? Because it's a story like story time with your kids. but the truth, the fact is you never know until you do it. And again, when you try something new, it is always a learning opportunity. So it's never, failure. We hear failure is like sometimes people have a negative connotation to it, but it's like, no, it's an experiment. And that's the way I live my life is it's a living laboratory. My life is a living laboratory. I'm just experimenting with things. And some things work, some things don't work. And I learn from both of them.
That's fantastic.
And for the woman who knows she has been overgiving, under asking, or quietly burning out, what is one small step she can take this week to begin leading fresh?
Pause. Seriously, just I would say just pause. That can be some of the one of the scariest things people can do. I don't know about you, but like, sometimes if you are just quiet and you're not doing, but you're just being, sorry, human being, but like if you're just being in a space where you're really not trying to be misfix it, evaluating what's happening, what's going right, what's going wrong, doing a lot of reflection. Is this what I want? And then filling that gap. Okay. So how am I going to move from here to here? That might involve you needing to hire a coach or talk to your work bestie. Once you figure out where your gaps are, ask for help. Ask for help. Do not try to be like, I can do this by myself. But I have a coach, right? And I'm a coach. But it's like asking for help because while the answer is always within you, that's one thing I love about coaching. The answer is actually always within you. And, when you ask those good questions, you have to really think about it and reflect. And the answer is, well, I could do this or I can do that. You just never have done it. You've never sat still enough to ask yourself those questions or have those questions asked to you. So I would say that's the biggest thing is just stop. Because you continuing to keep going and doing the same thing that you've been doing, I think somebody says that's the definition of insanity.
You're so right. It's not going to be if I say, here's the 5 things you should go fix. They're going to be like, I don't know.
Yeah. I'll say one more quick thing about that too. If you made a list of all the stuff you're doing, I guarantee you don't need to be doing all this stuff. Really knowing what your priorities are, what is most important to you, will help alleviate some of that overwhelm that you're experiencing. Letting go. Really.
Cynthia, before we started this podcast, you were talking about some exciting news that you have. Would you mind sharing with our Work Bestie community?
Okay, so I started last year writing a book, and I actually have the proof right here, like the proof that I've
Woo!
written
Ugh,
it. The
just
proof for me to edit somewhere. It's called Overflow: The New Way to Lead, Live, and Last by me. Yay! And this is a labor of love, a journey of putting in this book. Chapters are short, it's roughly 100 pages, and it includes reflective prompts at the end of each chapter for you to pause and think and to make sure you're in alignment. The book focuses on helping you live whole instead of so fragmented, using that fresh framework as a perspective. This is written for the overachieving woman who just needs to stop living from depletion, from overwhelm, and move into overflow. And overflow is everything, including the boundary setting, being able to know your worth and being able to regulate your own emotions. It's about a lot of different things, using spirituality as your anchor and to be able to give to others without depleting yourself.
that feels really on brand for the Work Bestie community.
The book is called The New Way to Live, Live, and Last. We have learned how to lead well. We've learned how to live well, but it's not sustainable, right? It only lasts 5 years, 10 years, even 15. But again, you have to count the cost of what that means for you.
Right.
What are you missing out on for you? Money is nice. It does allow us to do a lot of things, but peace is one of those things that are priceless. You can't put a price on peace. You can't put a price on your joy. You can't put a price on just knowing that I'm where I'm supposed to be purpose wise. All of that is priceless. And at the end of the day, nobody's going to ask you, how much money did you make? Was all the working, all the accolades you got from doing all the work, that's nice. But when you're in the next chapter of your life, are you going to look back on those things and be like, oh, yeah, that was worth it? Or can you look back on your life and say, the legacy I've built by teaching my kids the things that really matter, that's the thing that's going to sustain you. Keeping that in perspective of what really matters, keeping those priorities, that's what helps you sustain.
Dr. Cynthia Coy, you have been fantastic. How can our readers or our guests find out more about you?
You can always check out my website, uncagedSolutions.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. And if you have a question or you want to learn more about what I do with my coaching business, you can, and the books, you can always reach out to me at Cynthia at uncagedSolutions.com.
Thank you so much. This conversation was eye-opening, and we so appreciate your expertise.
And that worth is not something women have to earn through exhaustion. Not at all. It is something they have to remember, protect, and communicate clearly. This is the key. Because sometimes the first step towards asking for more is realizing we never supposed to lose yourself just to succeed.
So the work besties out there, we hope you found this just as enjoyable. Please share with us what you're learning, how you're incorporating fresh into your life. And with that, keep supporting each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Remember, whether you're swapping snacks in the break room, rescuing each other from endless meetings, or just sending that perfectly timed meme, having a work bestie is like having your own personal hype squad.
So keep lifting each other up, laughing through the chaos, and of course, thriving. Until next time, stay positive, stay productive, and don't forget to keep supporting each other. Work